There's a lie that Chevy guys have been whispering since 1967. They point to the spec sheet of the L88 Corvette and say, "Look, 560 horsepower, it destroys the Hemi." On paper, they might be right. Don't get me wrong, on a prepared racetrack, the L88 was a monster. But what if I told you the Hemi smoked it every time it actually mattered? On the street, the history books say the L88 was precision engineering, while the Hemi was just violence. Well, I've got news for you. In a street fight, violence usually wins. Today on Motors USA, we aren't looking at museum plaques. We're taking the two nastiest engines of the muscle car era, the 426 Elephant and the L88 Rat, and we're figuring out which one was actually built for a driver and which one was just a marketing stunt that overheated in traffic. Let's start with the heart of the argument. If you read the brochures, the L88 427 was a masterpiece. Aluminum heads, massive compression. Chevy rated it at 430 horsepower to fool the insurance agents, but we all know it was pushing 550 plus straight out of the crate. That sounds great, right? But look at this graph. The L88 was too smart for its own good. It was a race engine forced into a street car. It didn't make real power until you were screaming at 6,500 RPM. You know what happens at 3,000 RPM in an L88? Ever tried idling an L88 in traffic? Spoiler alert, it's hell. The 426 Hemi, it didn't care about precision. Chrysler built a sledgehammer. When you mashed the pedal in a Hemi, you didn't have to wait for the power band. The torque was instant. The L88 is like a boxer who needs 3 rounds to warm up. The Hemi is Mike Tyson in '88. Now, the Chevy loyalists are typing furiously right now. But the Corvette handles. It's lighter. It's a sports car. Okay, fair point. The Vetta corners like a dream when it isn't steaming on the shoulder. We're talking about being a real driver here. Racing and driving home. You know what the L88 didn't have? A fan shroud. Chevy stripped out the heater and the radio to save weight, and the cooling system was barely adequate for a lap around a track, let alone sitting in traffic on Woodward Avenue. If you drove an L88 to the grocery store, you were watching that temp gauge like a hawk. The Hemi? Look, it was heavy. You didn't turn a Hemi car, you aimed it, but it ran. You could idle a Hemi. You could drive it on the highway without it puking coolant all over your driveway. The L88 wasn't a car, it was a ticking time bomb. And wait until you hear what people are paying for that misery today. Let's talk money, because the market has lost its mind. Back in the day, ticking the L88 option box cost you over $1,000. The Hemi? About 800 bucks on a Roadrunner. Today, we just saw a 71 Hemi Charger hammer for $302,000 at Macomb Kissimmee earlier this year. That is a lot of cash. But look at the Chevy. You've got L88 selling for $3.2 million, or sitting unsold because the bids only hit $2.6 million. But was that premium worth the bragging rights? Spoiler, nope. If you bought an L88, you paid extra for a car that was arguably slower on the street. Today, rich guys buy them, park them in bubbles, and never drive them. Meanwhile, the Hemi owner is still out there melting tires. That's better value. So who wins? If you want a museum piece, if you want to stand next to your car at a show and brag about production numbers and aluminum heads, go buy the Corvette. It's an engineering marvel. But this channel is Motors USA. We drive our cars. The winner is the 426 Hemi. Case closed. Why? Because it delivered on the promise. It told you exactly what it was going to do. Shred tires and drink gas. And then it did it. The L88 is a legend because nobody drove them enough to realize how annoying they were. The Hemi is a legend because it ruled the street. But hey, that's just me. If you think I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. But make sure your L88 isn't overheating while you type it. Subscribe if you're Team Torquey. And stay tuned. Next week, we're asking the question that will really make you mad. Is the Mustang myth actually a fraud? See you on the next one.